Welcome back to Tater Talk. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Haley.
And in today's episode, we will be talking to Jeff Metzger about VeLOCity, which if you don't know, it's one of our programs of continuous improvement here at Lamb Weston. And Jeff Metzger is a seasoned professional with over 2 decades of experience in supply chain management and manufacturing excellence. He currently serves as the Senior Director of Global Manufacturing Excellence here at Lamb Weston, a role he's had since October of 2023. But prior to this, Jeff was the Senior Director of Global Customer Service Planning and Logistics Center of Excellence at Lamb Weston, where he contributed significantly to the company's operational success.
Yes. And before joining Lamb Weston, you'd be surprised he had an entire thing before.
Whole life before that.
Before Lamb Weston. Had a distinguished 20-year career at another company where he held various leadership roles, including Director of Customer Supply Chain, Senior Customer Supply Chain, and Operations Manager. So just a ton. His extensive experience has also included positions such as like site HR, all these different kinds of things. So, I mean, Jeff was the right person to talk to for this. And he also holds a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from University of Illinois. I'm going to ask you to... You're from
Illinois Urbana-Champaign.
There we go. Thank you. And his top skills, of course, include strategy, manufacturing, process improvement, transportation, and warehousing. All the things we need for VeLOCity.
Yeah, he doesn't mention it, but afterwards when we were chatting, he said U of I, and I was like, I went to Iowa. We're in Idaho. You have to be really specific of your U of I. It's University of Illinois. But anyways, we hope you enjoy this conversation with Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff, for being here today. We're super excited to talk to you about VeLOCity.
Great.
Yeah. And starting off broad, as we always do, can you give us a high-level overview of what VeLOCity is and what it means at Lamb Weston?
Sure. So VeLOCity is really, it's a multi-phase program that really hits on 2 main concepts. And then those concepts are loss elimination and the development of self-sufficient teams and individuals. So really, to break it down, it's the way we work in the plant. So it becomes all the different systems and standards and tools that the plants use, and we have a standard way of operating across the whole fleet of plants, ideally globally.
And I know this is relatively new in the grand scheme of things. Can you talk about how this got implemented in the plants? And I think it was 2021?
Yeah, so it was before my time at Lamb Weston, but yeah, I believe it was fiscal year 21, so late 2020 is when it got implemented. The first site to go was American Falls, so they've been our lighthouse site, and they did a really great job of launching the program and then figuring out the different issues that come up and what things need to be modified, and then from there it really expanded to other sites across North America. So currently, all the sites in North America, all the fry plants in North America have launched VeLOCity, and then it is starting to go global also. So we've got China, we'll be starting up Gaucho, so the new Mar del Plata plant will start up with VeLOCity, and then starting to introduce it at a couple of the sites in EMEA.
Awesome. That's awesome, yeah. So I guess why American Falls? What was the reason for choosing that plant?
Yeah, so again, before my time, but from what I understand, it was, it's a large site. There was huge opportunity there. And so the ability to really take advantage of that and jump right in, and I think they had the right culture there to say let's try this out and see what it brings us. And they've really done a nice job of really being those trailblazers and figuring out. And the other part that they also introduced with Line 6 and now with Line 7 is a concept called Technician Work System. And so I'll go quick on what a Technician Work System is that there's a traditional work system in plants and manufacturing plants, and think of that as you have an operator, you have a quality person, you have maintenance, you have sanitation. Those are kind of the key main areas. Whereas a technician work system is that each person is a multi-skilled technician. So you operate the equipment, you maintain the equipment, you sanitize the equipment, and you take care of the quality. So it's really giving each technician then a variety of different responsibilities and roles.
That's awesome. Do you find that helps a lot with ownership? That
Absolutely.
Everybody feels they have a bigger role to play than just
without a doubt. And that's really what it drives, is that overall total employee ownership and involvement, and it allows them to kind of take care of it themselves. So instead of the equipment's running, something happens, got to call maintenance and wait for them to come. They're able to at least jump in right away. And maybe, every person isn't going to be a master mechanic, but they have some of those initial skills that they can start troubleshooting and and then continue to build upon those skills.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it just seems like it just makes process a lot more streamlined, right? Because I'm just thinking, we had to stop every single time that we would do something in marketing. It's like, okay, I gotta pass it on to this next person, wait for the next person, so on and so forth. Obviously, there's steps along the way, but for their area, they can just own it fully and not have to, have that lag time and all of that.
So it is a different kind of concept for manufacturing. There's very few companies in the world that operate like that, and like I mentioned, American Falls is really where we've been testing it out for the last few years, and but yeah, just trying to work out all the little issues that come up, and it's there's different things that do pop up, but ultimately American Falls has done a really great job.
I think in like the Fix It, we watched the video on VeLOCity before just to refresh ourselves, and there was a phrase "fix it forever." I don't know if that's still used.
It's used in some of the initial training, but ideally it really gets at the thought of root cause analysis. So let's not put band-aids on things. Let's figure out why in the world did this component or this thing happen. And so there's a lot of different tools within the VeLOCity program that really hit at root cause. So whether it's breakdown elimination, and there's a bunch of other unified problem solving. So at the end of the day, we want to take care of the problem, put it to bed, and hopefully it never comes back again. So we've solved it, and we've put together a system or a standard so we can not have to worry about that biting us again.
Thanks.
I mean, this is a good leadway or segue into it. Are there any specific examples that you could share, or stories of how VeLOCity has helped streamline these processes or help make these more efficient changes more quickly?
Yeah, I think really one of the big ones is providing a standard language terminology that gets used across all the plants. And we still have a long way to go as far as standardization across the plants, but what I think that VeLOCity has really helped to spear is starting to drive plant-to-plant standards. So not only within it, but across the fleet. And so, there's different examples now where we're able to implement standard equipment, kind of like Fred talked about, where you look at the plants in Argentina with Mar del Plata is very similar design to what we have in China. And so, it all goes back to having standards and holding to those. But I think through the VeLOCity program, there's obviously been a lot of wins, and we could talk decrease in injuries, for example. That's a huge one, and it's super important. And decrease in quality defects or FSQ incidents, and then the millions of pounds of capacity that have been unlocked through leveraging the program and really driving the reliability. One of them it's a story that's been told before that I think just stands out, though, is one of the plants was getting ready to do a capital project. So they were going to replace a piece of equipment. It'd been there for a long time. They were having issues with it. And so they had it funded to spend roughly $500,000 to replace this piece of equipment. And they went through the initial parts of the VeLOCity program with it, which entails cleaning the base. And so what does that mean? That is really just going in, getting scrapers and brush, and towels and cleaning products, and really just getting that equipment back to base with the intent when we go in and we clean something to base, we're looking for defects, so problems, and we're fixing those. So after this particular plan actually went and did just the early phases, very, very basic part of the VeLOCity program, they restored it, and magically the equipment started running way better, and they canceled the project because they realized we don't need to go and spend $500,000 on a new piece of equipment. This equipment works fine. We just needed to take care of it, get it back, fix the defects. So a lot of what you'll hear when you talk to people about VeLOCity, it's like finding and fixing defects. And defects can be, broken bolt, something that isn't running right, or it could be just something in the process that isn't efficient.
Yeah. So you said clean to base. Is that we just use so many metaphors in this company? So that's like, what is?
Yeah.
But you're cleaning.
It actually is what it means.
Yeah,
clean to base condition is kind of how you think about it. So, it's not let's just do a light dusting, but literally get out some scrapers and let's really get it down to get rid of all the years of grease or oil or fries or
I could only imagine
that has built up over time, and that's when you start to find problems because you start uncovering it. And it's just like in a car, you pop the hood, you start poking around, you clean off some stuff, and you're like, oh, wow, there's a leak here. Yeah. This thing is missing. That's broken. So same
Some of the foundational work.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Are there any elements of VeLOCity that helps Lamb Weston with a competitive advantage, or things that are, we don't see our competitors doing necessarily?
Yeah, absolutely. And not to say our competitors aren't doing it, but some of the areas that I think it really helps with from a competitive, obviously, if you think about food safety quality, that's a big one, and especially driving standards and making sure we're adhering to those. So there's 10 different pillars within VeLOCity, everything from food safety and quality to EHS, so think safety, to maintenance is what we call the PM pillar. So there's 10 different pillars. And so, driving those standards is huge, which gives us a competitive advantage, whether it's better quality. Another area, there's a system or a tool called rapid changeover, called RCO. And if you think about that, that's helping us, that's as we go from one SKU to the next in the plant. So as we start to work on rapid changeover, we're reducing the amount of time it takes us to switch from SKUs. That ultimately leads to less inventory because we can get from one SKU to the next much quicker. So instead of being down for 6 hours, can we get it done in an hour? Can we get it done in 30 minutes? So, there's a huge opportunity there. And as we continue to add SKUs and we want to have that flexibility, and a lot of that too, even if you think about the reliability of the equipment. So we talked about this particular piece of equipment, we restored it, and now runs more reliably. If the equipment can run more reliably, then planning and others can count on, we can expect these cases at this time. And then that ultimately flows all the way to the customer, because when they order a certain SKU, they're able to get it when they want it.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the systems that's been a little bit more of a recent focus in the last, call it 6 to 12 months. And it's called MPS, Master Production Schedule. But really what that is it's a measurement. It's simply a metric to say, are we making the right cases at the right time? And then again, that flows right to the customer to make sure they're getting what they want.
Yep. I'm laughing just because you mentioned acronyms before we talked to y'all. It's a full-time job keeping up with the acronyms.
I have your acronym book.
You have a whole binder of glossary.
You're saving a lot of time. You're extra efficient. You're saving time on doing the acronyms. So I appreciate
tried to
you
explain
breaking them out
Try
for
to
us.
explain them.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
absolutely.
it's great. There are so many. And you mentioned Fred earlier, so I have to ask, is this now becoming an integral part of when we, international or any new plants that are being built, you start working with Fred or whoever else right off the bat versus going in after the fact, I would hope, or I would think.
Right. So obviously on, existing plants, then they've already been there for 5 years, 50 years, whatever it is. But certainly, and I mentioned with Gaucho, is that we're really trying to get ahead of it, and where we're able to start up the plant using the VeLOCity methodology and the tools, and really baking that in. There is a component of it that Lamb Weston has used for a number of years called VSU, Vertical Startup. And so that's an area that operations and engineering partner with. And basically it's a checklist of a lot of different systems and tools. And it's a very long checklist that items that need to be covered in order to successfully start up a line, a plant, or even a piece of equipment. So yes, there's definitely a lot of partnership with engineering, but even across the board, if you look at all the different departments or areas, so CSD, continuing skills development, so learning and development, you got to make sure everyone's trained on these new pieces of equipment or systems. Obviously, safety and quality are also a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Is there anything about VeLOCity? I'm just thinking, I know I had said too, people heard about it, I think when it first got launched, there was a lot of talk about it, and then we still hear about it, especially because when you get employees that are in charge of it and on the team. But is there anything about VeLOCity, maybe since in your tenure of being here on VeLOCity, that you're people need to know this, or that would just be, a more bite-sizable for people to understand the impact of VeLOCity as well?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is what I'll often tell people is VeLOCity is not a sprint. So I think a lot of times people look at it as like a project. Oh, we're going to do this and then we're done. And I mentioned earlier, it's a multi-phase. There's technically 5 different phases of it, and it's a multi-year. So it is a marathon. It is not a just quick fix it. We did that. We checked the box, and then what do we have next? And you really, as you're going through it and running this marathon, is that you're continuing to eliminate losses. So losses are continuing to go away. So that means the lines are running better. We're getting more efficient. And then we're building the knowledge and the skills of our employees. And I kind of mentioned at the start, the two main purposes are eliminate loss and then increase that, that knowledge there. And so, you're continually to raise the bar and where our operators are at and our folks in the plants with their overall knowledge of the equipment and the products. So it's a journey for sure.
Yeah.
It is not just a short hike.
Yep. Well, and too, like, as we've had conversation with some of the engineers, like, there's new equipment and the company's always trying to evolve too. So it's kind of impossible for this to just be a one and done, because there's always going to be new things to learn and grow from there.
Absolutely. And whether it's a new SKU, it's a different type of cut, it's batter, it's a different type of batter. So it's not like you can ever just,
check the box.
Click the easy button, check the box, and call it good.
Yeah. So you're saying VeLOCity is a lifestyle?
It is.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle product. That's right. It's here to stay.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, that's all I had.
I think that's all we got.
Well, thanks so much for letting me jump on.
Yeah, of
Appreciate
course.
it. Okay.
That's all for today's episode with Jeff. It was super cool to hear more about VeLOCity program. I know, like we said, like we had to remind ourselves a little bit about the program just because we don't see it all the time.
Right.
But I just really loved, I know I stuck to the phrase fix it forever. He said, yeah, it's still just more so an embodiment of what they do, that they're not going to put a Band-Aid on something. They're really going down to the bases of understanding how we can improve something, fixing it forever. We're really going to try to have it be improvement that is for a really long time. So I think it's just really cool to see how much we're trying to do at the plants at a fundamental level. And I thought it was really cool hearing about the program too, where they're creating those like really well-rounded technicians in the plant.
Yeah, totally. Everybody, it's not one specific job on the line. It's everybody can play a role in all the line or in all the parts of the line. I think something that really stuck out to me, and I said this in the episode too, because it's not just a metaphor, but literally cleaning to base. Not just spending money to buy new equipment because you think you need it, but going in there and cleaning it all the way down to see if it actually can run again. And the good news with that is it did. So just some really cool opportunities that we have with VeLOCity.
Yeah. So we hope you all enjoyed this episode and you didn't get lost in acronyms. He did an amazing job explaining them all to us. But yeah, we hope you all enjoyed this conversation with Jeff.
Yep. And we will see you next time on Tater Talk.
Bye.